Welcome back to the channel, wrestling fans. Today, we're diving into the stories of 10 WWE superstars who were instantly humbled in their careers. From legendary figures to rising stars, these moments served as harsh wake-up calls in the world of professional wrestling. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for your daily dose of wrestling content. Now, let's get into it. The Big Show's WWE career was a mixed bag, but it was one segment with Randy Orton in 2021 that offended and humbled the Big Show enough to leave the company. In that infamous segment, Orton verbally ran down the Big Show and even put his hand over Big Show's throat. WWE booked Big Show to sit there and take this abuse, and Big Show was completely justified in taking issue with the segment as it made him look completely powerless. During an interview with Inside the Ropes, the wrestling legend discussed why he found the segment humbling. The WWE is always done to. They will use every tool available to promote something that they're promoting. Everything's on the table with them. I understand that the role was setting up what it was setting up, but it was a little bit of a humbling experience to sit on the stage and get braided for the work that you've done. But that's part of what you sign a contract for. You sign a contract and you get paid to check your ego at the door. If you don't want to check your ego anymore, then you can leave. When WWE arrived at the 2018 Royal Rumble, Braun Strowman was still relatively new to competing in major top-flight matches. Strowman was a decent worker, yet he couldn't get carried away. Unfortunately for Strowman, he got carried away in a match that featured Brock Lesnar. Strowman was instantly humbled during a triple threat match that also featured Kane. Strowman kneed Lesnar in the head, and Lesnar reminded him who he was in the ring with by legitimately punching him right in the head. Strowman took the blow like a champ, and this was the last time he got carried away in a matchup, especially when competing against one of the toughest men to ever lace up a pair of boots. It's not uncommon for a wrestler who made a career of abusing their backstage power to be eventually humbled years later. This was most definitely the case with Hulk Hogan in 2002. When Hogan returned to the company, he was given a strong push at first, including a WWE title win at Backlash. Eventually, WWE decided it was time for Hogan to give back to the industry. Hogan would be booked to put over names such as Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, The Undertaker, and Triple H. This would have come as a huge surprise to Hogan, who would have been expecting WWE to treat and book him as if it was the 80s. But this was a new era in WWE, and there were a dozen names that were incredibly over with the audience. Thankfully, WWE weren't in a position where they needed to be overly reliant on the Hulkster. Fans were elated when Mickie James returned to WWE in 2017. James was and still is considered one of the greatest female wrestlers of all time, but it became apparent incredibly quickly that WWE was going to humble James during her final run in the company. James would rarely win matches and was often presented as a side character, despite still being insanely over and still able to deliver at a high level in the ring. When her run came to a close, WWE controversially sent her belongings back to her in a trash bag, which quite rightly caused widespread disgust among the wrestling community. Speaking to Chris Van Vliet, James discussed how her run made her feel like she was being humbled at every stage. "I don't think getting my stuff in a trash bag was the point. I would say it was on par with everything I tried in the last 2 years of my career. I tried everything in my space to pitch. I felt like I was cut off at every turn. There were a lot of things that happened in the last 2 years that really made me feel that I was being humbled along the way." She continued, "No, you don't deserve a retirement match. I wasn't upset at being a producer. I love to help younger talent. I don't want to wrestle forever either. This run was going to be my last run. All I wanted was this one moment. I didn't want to win the championship. I just wanted to bow out gracefully. But I felt like there was zero interest in trying different things like commentary or a trainer in NXT. It's not that people don't want women's wrestling. It's that it is too much for the company." The 2018 to 2019 run that Ronda Rousey had in WWE exceeded all expectations. Rousey brought her game to the WWE and had tremendous matches. However, when Rousey returned to WWE in 2022, something had changed, and she spent the second run being humbled by the company itself. Rousey's in-ring work dramatically regressed, leaving WWE with no choice but to move her down the card. Rousey went from winning the Royal Rumble and being in the top match at WrestleMania 38 to being presented in the tag division in feuds that, to be fair, nobody even cared about. WWE's booking showed Rousey that just because she was a star in the UFC and had a successful prior run, she still had to deliver at a high level and couldn't rely solely on her star power. It's evident from Rousey's numerous interviews since leaving WWE that she didn't remotely enjoy her second run in the company, making it a humbling experience for the former women's champion. Number 1. Shawn Michaels in 1998. It's been an urban legend for decades that Shawn Michaels wasn't going to do business at WrestleMania 14. HBK was booked to drop the WWE title to Stone Cold Steve Austin, and there was intense speculation that HBK simply wasn't going to do the honors. It was believed that The Undertaker was one of the names who humbled HBK by insisting he did the job to Austin, and reportedly even taped his fists in case he had to get physical. The dead man addressed these claims during an interview on Broken Skull Sessions. "I don't think he was excited because you were on fire. Rumor has it we don't know if Shawn was going to do business. I determined what if he decides to do something silly. I worked with Kane that night, but this was foremost on my mind. It was a vital part of our success story, the transfer of the title because he was going away. As he sat in Gorilla, he watched the whole match. It sounds over the top, but I had to take my hands up. If Shawn had not done business, there would have been an appearance by The Undertaker that night. Somehow or another, that belt was going to get switched, and I was going to do what I had to do to make sure that happened. If it meant me thumping him up and throwing him back in the ring, that's what was going to happen." HBK reluctantly dropped the title to Austin, marking his final match in WWE until the 2002 edition of SummerSlam. The Undertaker has always prided himself on having excellent pro wrestling matches. When The Undertaker was booked to wrestle Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 33, the Deadman planned on this being his final ever matchup. The Undertaker was going to main event the show, hopefully having a match of a lifetime, and officially call it a day. Unfortunately, The Undertaker was instantly humbled as he delivered one of the worst performances of his entire career. Unlike most top wrestlers, The Undertaker was fully aware that he had been humbled and that he had underdelivered. The Deadman spoke at length about how ashamed he was of his performance and even apologized directly to Reigns for the quality of his performance. The WWE legend would have numerous opportunities to redeem his performance, and his eventual retirement came 3 years later at WrestleMania 36, where he defeated AJ Styles in a fitting close to an iconic career. Upon The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin taking a step back from WWE in 2003, Triple H became arguably WWE's biggest full-time star. The game would become the face of Raw and have a dominant world title reign, where it was his job to carry the brand and have excellent matches. The issue was that Triple H was humbled by taking on this role. When Triple H wrestled former WCW names such as Scott Steiner, Kevin Nash, and Goldberg, it became clear that he wasn't the ring general that he thought he was, and didn't have the ability to carry these names to show stealing pay-per-view matches. In Triple H's defense, it would have been extremely hard for anyone to carry these names to pay-per-view quality matches in 2003. Yet Triple H clearly expected things to go much better. John Cena. Becoming the face of WWE allows that top star a certain degree of power and influence. At the 2010 SummerSlam event, WWE had planned for Team Nexus to defeat Team WWE. However, WWE's top guy, John Cena, wasn't a fan of this finish and used his sway to get the match changed to present him as the sole victor. Everybody knew this was the wrong outcome, including Team WWE members Chris Jericho and Edge. but Cena believed he knew best. The finish of Cena standing tall fell completely flat. Cena was humbled when he had to come back through the curtain and address everyone who had advised him that the finish wouldn't work. It took Cena several years to address the matter publicly, but he eventually did during a Q&A in Australia. In that particular moment, it was too much. I think if presented in another way, it could have been a little more palatable. But I can't change the television show. I never had that power. And that's something I don't do. If you look at the laundry list of my opponents, you can tell that it's exactly how I operate. I guess wrong on the way that the story was told, and I guess that's why people are